okay? Okay, brilliant. All right, let's start. Hello and welcome to our panel discussion, how an increased demand for passenger information shapes fleet planning in post-COVID times. My name is Elena Adler. I am sales manager at DILAX and I'm your host today. With me, I have three beautiful guests, and I'm very glad they are here with me in person today. Lucille Ramakas is a public transport consultant and mobility enthusiast. She has worked on numerous urban mobility projects, both with public transport authorities and operators both in France and Germany. Welcome, Lucille.
Thank you. Hello.
My second guest, which is not Johannes as you see on the screen, but the one with certainly the longest journey here, is Dadi Oslogason from Iceland. He is the head of IT, and that is the main public transport operator in Iceland. In his role, Dadi is a trailblazer in data analytics for mobility services. And also, since last year, he's part of the EU-funded Energy ECS project that addresses the challenges of climate change by developing innovative ICT and electronic solutions, focusing on the interface of energy and mobility. It's a pleasure to have you here, Dadi.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And finally, welcome DILAX CEO Thorsten Kies. He has supported customer projects in public transit since 2011. And he is a specialist for automatic passenger counting and mobility data analytics. Glad to have you, Thorsten.
Hello, Elena. Thank you.
So, I would like to start our discussion with your personal opinion on public transport these days in your areas. How far away are passenger numbers from pre-COVID times? And do you use the subway or the bus to get around cities these days? And finally, how are you experiencing public transit these days? And what is important to you when using it? Ladies first. Lucille, what's your opinion?
Well, thank you. So, as a Parisian citizen, I will talk about our city of Paris. Ridership is not up yet. So we are around 75 to 80% of ridership. And service is not back to full service yet either. So it's around 90%. But there's a it varies a lot between lines in the city. So some lines are already back at full capacity and others are still lagging because the PTA, the Île-de-France Mobilité, is struggling with financing the transport, but I guess like all PTAs today. So that means that even if ridership is not back to 100%, that some trains are still overcrowded, and so the experience for passengers is not so good at rush hour. So maybe some of you have experienced it today. And as for me, I still ride the metro a lot and also my bike.
Great, thank you for the insights. Dadi, how is it in Iceland?
Yeah, it's to start with, it's very different in Reykjavik, Iceland, than from Paris. We were calculating it yesterday, and Paris is what 100 square kilometers size, and it's got in Paris they got 2.2 million people. In Reykjavik we have almost 800 square kilometers of space and 120,000 people. So the challenges are completely different in Reykjavik than in Paris. But the situation is similar, of course. It's we are at like 80, maybe 90% ridership again from when COVID was worst, and we can see a steady increase in ridership now. But just to emphasize that the headline of this session is COVID, but there are a lot of other things that are coming to play that we can see. Of course, we are living in something we might in the future call post-COVID, but it might be middle of COVID or pre-COVID even, we don't know. So we are living in really strange situations right now, so it's really difficult to plan anything. Apart from that, we're living in a situation that's either pre-war or during war or after war, we don't know. This will affect oil prices and apart from that, we're living in some sort of pre-economic crisis, environmental crisis situation. So, everything is really difficult to plan right now. But you asked about my experience also with, and how I personally experience public transportation now and transport. Personally, I'm starting to use a lot more active traveling, like walking and biking, etc. And I think that is a trend that we should also focus on. We're talking a lot about micromobility and electronics, but lifestyle changes is at least as big a part of it as organization of how to get people to move around. So I'm trying to also use the opportunity to keep in shape. I'm not getting any younger.
That's
unfortunately.
That's a good side effect, I guess. Thorsten, finally.
Well, Elena, if you ask my personal opinion how to increase ridership, how it could work, I think I would like to see much more real-time occupancy in advance. I personally I'm traveling by car to the office. It's around 50 to 60 minutes, depending on the rush hour. With the S-Bahn, with the tram, it would take 35 minutes or so. So I always have to decide if I want to go there fast or convenient, because most of the time the S-Bahn is very crowded. And to be honest, I personally don't like to have people standing on my feet and putting the elbow into my face, and that might happen in Berlin at least. So, and if I would knew that the S-Bahn is not crowded, I would decide for it then. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Thorsten, and I also see that passenger information like predictive occupancy could help to rebuild trust in using public transport again. And also in my discussions with my Nordics customers, we already see that during the pandemic, there is an increased demand for passenger information. So, Dadi, what do you think are the most important information passengers want to see these days? And what are you planning to implement in the near future?
The most important information is always the schedule. That predominates everything else, of course. The next thing, everything above that, is something that reflects on the schedule, which is, for example, estimate time of arrival information, so that people can plan their trip not only the day before, but live, in a live situation. Occupancy is a live occupancy is a very important piece of the puzzle also. We are not there yet. We really want to be there, so that both for the passenger, so he can make a more intelligent life decisions about his traveling. If he wants to be in a crowded bus with an elbow in his face, then he has the right to do that, or take the next bus with no elbow in his face. So, and from an operational perspective, this is also adamant. This is very important. So we can see live what's really going on in the system, and it can vary from day to day, even though we know the general trends. So that we can throw in a bus or throw in whatever transportation means are needed live to reduce the elbow in the face situations. But this, we need to, like in Reykjavik, we need to mature a lot to be able to use that kind of data. And then, of course, for the user, you know, we need real-time disruption information, and like I said, is the estimate time of arrival. So it's a lot of information that we need to have and that we need to feed out and that the users need to understand. So and to do that in a user-friendly way, so we feed the data in a way that people actually want to receive it. That's the trick, and I think we have to mature a lot to be there, and any city has to mature a lot to be there, so that people can sort of go through their daily lives without thinking too much about how to get to where they want to be, because that's sort of not the point of their lives. They just want to get there. It's our job to help them make that easy.
Yeah, indeed. So the task sounds simple, real-time occupancy information, but what you just explained, sounds like a bigger task in the end, and we are, happy to help you with this at DILAX. Lucille, in your experience consulting public transport companies, is the need for passenger information new, or has it only now become relevant?
It's not new. It's been required for some time. The thing is, it was considered as nice to have. So PTAs and PTOs were more focused on the cost of public transportation and maybe the efficiency of it as well. But passenger information was aside, so like secondary to the real transportation issues, if I may say so. But there was a need for passengers for a long time. So obviously COVID helped speed things up because people wanted to know more about, more in advance and in real time to have an idea how to plan their journey. But it's been something very important for a lot of people, and I'm speaking about women, because you would never wait for a bus for half an hour in a very dark space at night, and if you don't know when the bus is coming, then it might actually affect if you're going to go out or not. So this is something very important. It's not just for comfort, it's also for safety. And that's, if you want people to trust public transport, you have to give them at least well, you have to improve the feeling of safety as well, because I would not say that it's not safe to wait outside, but it feels that way. And it's important, and that's something PTAs and PTOs have to address. And obviously, there's also another group of passengers that need better and way more improved passenger information. It's people with reduced mobility. And we're all thinking of the people in wheelchairs, but it's also for people traveling with kids, traveling with luggage, or if you're injured and you can't take the stairs, then that's information you need to have in order to plan your trip. I once sprained my knee in Paris and had to take the bus, and it was a whole new world for me because I could not. Well, I was very limited in my options, and it was hard for me to know what they were. So we have to think of everyone, and we need a more inclusive public transport, and it starts with passenger information.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect, and I totally agree with you. But now let's turn to something else. Torsten, speaking as an expert in automatic passenger counting technology, thus collecting occupancy data, do you see a high demand for public transport companies for real-time occupancy data due to COVID-19?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the technology is already available since more than 5 years, I would say. So, but unfortunately, there are just a few companies like Strato who are really using that solution based on LPC data before COVID. It was more nice to have, and they did not really invest into it. That has completely changed, really. So although those investment decisions are planned long term, normally, we see a huge demand, and it's in nearly every tender. It's a common requirement and a request that we have to fulfill. Absolutely. And by the way, it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, it's not only for the passenger information, but the PTOs and the PTAs get a much broader insight into the whole network. So they better understand the passenger needs. They can.
So now comes the spontaneous dance, I guess? Or karaoke, yes.
You said you wanted to sing. Huh,
I'm not a
Dadi?
volunteer, though.
Very nice. So,
But that's nice music,
yeah,
I
it's
have
good.
to say.
So great, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Is it something central?
I think it's just a commercial break, right?
Okay. I'm afraid I don't speak French, so I'm not even sure if we are supposed to. Ah, okay.
Okay, I think
Safety?
we simply go on, right? so, so,
So I guess the
Next.
dance has to start
no,
now,
I'm not
Thorsten.
dancing. Just ask the next question, please, Elena.
Okay. So just to summarize, the technology, the sensor technology has been around for a while, and also the initiative to generate and share data in public transit is not new, okay? But not only passengers want transparency of information and sharing of information, but also the communities. And at least that would explain why the European Commission issued the delegated regulation in 2017. Lucille, how did and how does it impact operators you're working with regard to the regulation?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I wanted to ask you something on the delegated regulation from the European Commission. Maybe if that helps, start and explain to us what the regulation is about so that we all have the same knowledge. And then the question is, how does this impact public transport operators you are working with?
Well, first, yes, the European Union is moving forward with open data and so, yeah, I'm sorry, it's very disturbing to have the song as well. So yes, the European Union is passing directives to push forward the Open Data Act, and it was translated differently in different countries, and I know more about France and Germany. So yeah, that's so that's real time. That's live panel. Thank you for shutting the music. So as I was saying, so the European Union is leading the way, and it was translated differently in the countries as France is moving forward more. And for instance, we have a law mobility that was passed in 2019 that requires for all the PTAs and PTOs to share the data, real-time and static data. And since 2021, it's required for every networks in France, which is more advanced than the directive was planning, because it was 2023. So we'll see how it's actually implemented. So there's a unique platform that has all the data sets that all the actors can download and use. And the aim was really to foster and boost the innovative side, as it's aimed at startups and new actors to be able to offer new services that are not that lack the data to actually to foster. And because the idea is that if we want people to choose public transport, then we have to improve the intermodality, and that needs real-time data. And as for Germany, it's always, well, data privacy is always sensitive in Germany, and for obvious historical reasons, and data security as well. So Germany is not moving forward as much as France, but it's getting there as well. And Germany is still figuring out how to balance the need for transparency and data for passengers, but without compromising the security and privacy of everyone. If you use Google Street View in France and in Germany, it's a total different experience, for instance, because, I know Berlin better, but in Berlin, sometimes the buildings are blurred and the footage is old, and that's because of those concerns, whereas in France, almost everywhere you can find very recent footage and see how cities are, and it's obviously easier for startups and NPTOs to know a place better and propose new options.
That is a very interesting point, Lucille, and I would like to stick with data sharing for a moment. As far as I know, Iceland is fairly open to sharing its data, and I would like to ask you, when has Straeto started to share data of your services? Was it already before or after this EU regulation, and how did you introduce this, and did it impact your company development, and if so, how?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking this question, because we opened all the data in 2013, about 2 months after I started in Straeto. So that was sort of my first thing that the first thing that I did when I started was to open everything up, everything that could be opened. Obviously, the GTFS, like the scheduling data, the real-time data for the buses, and now we would very much like to open up for more. For example, passenger counting and the load of the buses, etc. We don't have that yet, but we really want to go down that road. Another thing that we want to open for is payments. There we go. Thank you. So we want to open up for payments. Right now, what I'm using most of my day-to-day time at work at the moment is a new payment system that we are implementing and have implemented and opened. And the next step there will definitely be to open payments, so that anyone can sell a ticket to public transportation. I think it's extremely important to have all these data open, both scheduling, real-time, and payments, and as much of the data as possible, so that innovative companies can come in and do their magic. Because it's for sure that we are not going to solve all these problems as a PTO and a PTA. We need a lot more help. And with all this open data, with the mass philosophy emerging, and sort of people thinking more about environmental issues, and also the new regulations, the regulation of the protection of data. When this comes together, then we're pretty should be secure that we have a set of regulations that we can lean on to open everything that can be open and have private what should be private. And I think really this is the way forward for not all public transportation, but for transportation in general.
Certainly. And to stick with your words, one of those magic components is also automatic passenger counting technology, which you are using in your network. And yeah, according to my knowledge, you use it to improve not only your service, but also to tailor your offer to your customers. So not all of us here are probably APC experts, so I would like you to tell us a little bit, how does this work?
Currently we're not using sort of the live data. That's our next step. That's what we want to do. That's where we want to get. So, but we are using it. Of course, this is the one of the most important data sets that we can have to plan for our trips and to set up the network. So we're using it for fleet management. We're using it for route planning. We use the data a lot for simple reporting to our board and the municipalities and the politicians. They have to know what's going on in the system, obviously. So and it's not enough to tell them what the schedule is. We have to have absolute knowledge of how it's used. And that's where, of course, passenger counting comes in. We use it to add new stops, for example. And we use in a general way the data as core data set of how to improve the network as a whole. So I think it's core operations. But what we need to mature to is to use the live data, like I said earlier, to be able to feed a live information to people to make their own decisions, and for us to throw in a bus where necessary. So we use it a lot, but we can mature to use it a lot better also.
And what's your summary now? Do people with more access to information use public transport more than private cars, for instance?
That's a very difficult question. I would like to say yes, but the real answer is I don't know. I think my feeling is that they do, but we're battling in Iceland. Like I said, it's a very Reykjavik is a very widespread community, so families really almost have to have a car. We're battling with car number 2 and car number 3 to get people to not to have many cars in the same home, and there are a lot of things that come into play why people choose to use public transportation or active transport, and of course data is one of them. I'm not sure it's the most important thing. I think like it's important to schedule to create the schedules for them to create a network that is really user friendly to use, that they can use, that the multiple as many people as possible can use it. But the most important thing is to have a tight network and fast buses, free lanes, and you know the biggest questions. So to get people fast from where they live to work, of course. But data plays a very important role there, of course, to plan it, to create that network, and to use it live when people have made the decision to actually do it, to actually use public transportation.
Thank you very much for the insights, Dadi. Torsten, let's now zoom out from Iceland and get a global perspective on sharing data. And listening to what you already explained to us, what are common strategic shifts that operators currently take to get a clearer picture of their fleets and services through data?
Well, what we experience is that there is a strategic shift that PTOs and PTAs are more often working with data, in fact. So, and for me, I think you've mentioned it, evaluation is key. Evaluation is mandatory. If you are going to implement a new on-demand service or ride sharing, you can plan it, you can take a lot of assumptions into account. In the end, you don't know what is going to happen and about the effect. There are so many side effects you simply can't see before. So you need to measure it, you need data for it, and so then you can improve it. You can test it, how it's working and what is not working, and with those data you can be very fast, taking decisions, very agile, and this is, from my understanding, this is really key to get a better understanding of what's going to happen there.
Great. And Lucille, you work a lot with public transit operators. What do you see they have in their agenda to grow back and grow more in a resilient way?
Well, I can't speak for public transport operators, but the thing is, the first step is to collect data, and we still lack data, and so the first step is to collect as much data as possible and to make it available in a transparent way to the most people, and in order to create an ecosystem where everyone can make an educated guess. And it's first take the data, collect it, make it available, and then we need good quality data, because data is not enough, and if it's not complete, if it doesn't disaggregate correctly between different kinds of passengers, then you can't have a marketing strategy, for instance. If you don't know who is in your buses and in your metros, and so that we need to improve the quality of the data in order to help PTAs and PTOs to adapt the service to their passengers' needs. And so I think we need to go as far as knowing what we need to sex disaggregate the data in order to know if those are men or women in the public transit, if they are how old they are, and if they're traveling to go to work or or for something else. And that's also something that we need to improve as well, because we tend to disaggregate the purpose of the trips in only two categories. One is to go to work, that is seen as very important, and that we should favor, and the other as leisure, that includes all the different kinds of trips we have to make, that leisure as if you want to go to play soccer, for instance, but also if you are grocery shopping or dropping the kids at school or helping an elderly parent go to a doctor's appointment. And I personally don't consider it as leisure, but as necessary for society to function. So we need to categorize better that as well. And it starts with collecting the data and categorize it better in order to make public transport for it to answer passengers' needs, and yeah, that's how data will help us make better public transport and help people to choose public transport instead of driving their car.
So, dear audience, if you're here from a public transport perspective or if you're dealing with data, I think it has become clear that there's still a lot to do. And yeah, for this, I would like to look into the future and ask all of you again, what will help to make public transport more attractive in the future, and how can we make the change that people will rather take the bus instead of the car in the future? Maybe Lucille, you start?
Well, I think I started answering that question in advance, but so people need information and intermodal information, because that's how it works. Daddy, you said that you need a tight public transport network in order for public transport to be effective, but we will never be able to transport people from point A to point B. Everyone has a different goal, and so we need people to be able to make connections in transport and to use micro-mobility options, or walking or biking, as well as in complementary to public transport. And that requires data and all we've said in this panel. So that is for passengers and also for people responsible for designing public transport. We have to work together more, and we have to include more options in the trips we make.
Dadi?
Yeah, everything that Lucille said, obviously, but the issue is just so big. You know, this is a humongous environmental issue we're dealing with here, and we really need people to change their lifestyles. Not only to take the bus or take the train, we need them to change their lifestyles radically. And we can help a bit with that, with better data. And I think the best sentence that has come out now is in this panel is data is not enough. It's not enough, it's how we use it. We get a lot of data, for example, from our passenger counting, from the real-time systems and everywhere. I think if we look at ourselves, we need to mature enormously with how we use that data and how we present this data to the users. Can I make a little exercise with the audience, see if they're listening? Can you please raise your hand if you have a game on your phone? Anyone that has any game on their phone? Yeah, half. That's the half that was listening. I think this is something that we need to use. We need to plug into how people are interacting to their devices and their lives. They're doing everything through smart devices. And I think gamification is a word that we need to start looking into. How to make this experience fun and sort of interactive, instead of being just a provider and user of the service. So, you know, you people that raised your hands, you know how extremely happy you are when you get a star, or in your game, or you get some points, or you can open a box even, and there's something in the box in the game. So why don't we use this? This is something that people, really want to do and do in their daily lives. Why don't we reward them for having for behaving in an environmental friendly way? We can have a collaboration with, for example, the municipalities. Give them tickets in the museum or in the theater or whatever. Just engagement that goes beyond traveling, I think, would be necessary for us to take the next steps.
Great idea. We are already coming to our end, but Torsten, one last comment from you?
No, I have not much to add. That was perfect.
Well, then I really hope you enjoyed the insights, and I would like to conclude our panel discussion now. Thank you very much, Lucille, Dadi, and Torsten, for being my guests today. And please, come and say hi at our booth, DILAX, which is F1515. Come and say hi. We have good coffee, I hope. And I wish you a nice time at the event. Merci and bye-bye.
Thank you.